Thomas Edison tried to steal his invention, lost in court twice, and then tried to hire him out of desperation, but this black genius told him no and kept inventing technology that runs the world today. His name was Granville T. Woods, and he created the wireless communication system that stopped trains from crashing into each other, invented the third rail that powers every subway on Earth, and earned nearly 60 patents while fighting off thieves, racists, and an entire system designed to erase him. Yet most people have never heard his name because history decided Edison deserved the credit for changing the world, even though this man was out-inventing him at every turn. So how did a black kid with a 4th grade education become the most important inventor you've never heard of? Why did he die poor in an unmarked grave while companies made billions from his ideas? And what would happen if people actually knew the truth about who built the technology we use every single day? Let's get into it. Imagine a world where trains had no way of talking to each other, no GPS, no radios, no real-time communication, just tons of metal flying blind on the tracks. Crashes happened constantly, and the people running the show didn't really know who was where until it was too late. Trains would leave one station, and dispatchers had no idea where they were until they arrived at the next stop, if they arrived at all. The entire system was a disaster waiting to happen every single day. Now picture a young black kid in the 1800s with barely any formal schooling, working in steel mills and rail yards, studying every screw and wire he could get his hands on, teaching himself engineering from borrowed library books because he wasn't allowed to check them out himself, and deciding, yeah, I'm going to fix this entire system. That kid was Granville Taylor Woods, and what he did next changed everything. He invented a device that let moving trains talk to stations and to each other in real time. No one else had figured this out. Not Edison with all his resources. Not Bell with all his connections. This was the world's first true wireless telecommunication system for transportation, and it saved countless lives while revolutionizing an entire industry. But let me back up, because you need the full story to understand just how insane his journey really was. Granville Woods was born on April 23, 1856 in Columbus, Ohio. His parents were free, but that didn't mean life was easy. His father was African American, his mother was part Native American, and in 1856 America, being born black meant the world had almost nothing to offer you. Schooling was limited to whatever scraps the system would give you. Opportunities were even more limited. And this is the part where most stories stop, because the world didn't expect much from someone like him. But Woods had other plans. He attended school until age 10, then had to drop out to help support his family. He went to work in machine shops, steel mills, and rail yards, basically anywhere he could get close to mechanical systems. He'd watch, listen, and learn, while everyone else just saw him as cheap labor. And instead of spending money on toys or snacks, he bought technical books with whatever wages he earned. Not storybooks, not comic books, engineering manuals, telegrapher's guides, physics textbooks that most adults couldn't understand. Here's the problem, though. Black people were excluded from many public libraries at the time, so Woods had white friends check out library books for him. He built his own education brick by brick, book by borrowed book, teaching himself subjects that universities were charging thousands of dollars to teach white students. During his teen years, he held every railroad job you can imagine. He worked on railroads out west. He operated machinery in steel mills. He became a fireman on the Iron Mountain Railroad, shoveling coal and learning how steam engines actually worked. And by his early 20s, he became a chief engineer on a British steamship called the Ironsides. Imagine that. A black man in the late 1800s running the engine room of a major ship, responsible for keeping the entire vessel operational. That alone is historic, but Woods was just getting started. In 1876, Woods moved to New York City and enrolled in technical college, studying electrical and mechanical engineering for 2 years. These were subjects he realized held the key to the future, the technologies that would define the next century. By 1878, he was working as an engineer for the Dayton and Southeastern Railway in Ohio, and it was during those long train rides between Washington Courthouse and Dayton that Woods started forming ideas for what would become his most important invention. In 1880, he moved to Cincinnati and set up his own business, the Woods Electric Company. He was done working for people who wouldn't promote him because of his race, done watching white engineers with half his talent get credit for his ideas, done being told he should be grateful just to have a job. He'd build his own empire. In 1884, he filed his first patent for a steam boiler furnace, an improvement that made industrial industrial furnaces more efficient and safer to operate. Nothing flashy, but it put him officially on the map as an inventor. Then in 1885, he created something wild for the time, a device he called telegraphony that let you send telephone and telegraph signals on the same wire. You could switch between Morse code and voice communication on a single line, essentially creating the first multi-use telecommunications system. And guess who bought the patent rights? The Bell Telephone Company, yes, that Bell, Alexander Graham Bell's company, American Bell Telephone Co. That sale gave Woods the financial freedom to become a full-time inventor, and what he did next changed transportation forever. His real breakthrough came in 1887, the invention of the synchronous multiplex railway telegraph. Don't get scared by the name, here's what it actually did. It let trains send and receive telegraph messages while moving using electromagnetic induction from the telegraph lines running beside the tracks. Basically, he figured out how to pull a wireless signal out of thin air in the 1800s, decades before radio even existed. Think about what that means. In 1887, Woods created wireless communication. Not for phones, not for entertainment, but for saving lives on railroad tracks where trains were crashing because they had no way to warn each other about dangers ahead. Before Woods' invention, train communication was basically hope, prayer, and handwritten notes passed between stations. Trains would leave one station and dispatchers had no idea where they were until they arrived at the next stop. Collisions were common, hundreds of people died every year in preventable accidents. Derailments killed people regularly. The system was a disaster. After Woods, dispatchers could actually track trains in real time. Conductors could warn others about dangers ahead, about broken tracks, about other trains on the same line. Crashes dropped dramatically. Efficiency soared. The entire railroad industry was transformed overnight. Woods should have become a national hero. His invention was saving lives every single day, making train travel safer for millions of people. Newspapers should have been writing about him. Congress should have been giving him medals. History books should have been teaching his name to schoolchildren. But that's not what happened. Because the moment his railway telegraph hit the scene, guess who showed up trying to claim credit? Thomas Edison, the man history remembers as America's greatest inventor, went after Woods legally, claiming he had invented the system first. Edison filed patent interference proceedings, basically saying, "I invented this, not him." Woods fought back in court and won. The evidence was clear. Woods had filed first, built first, demonstrated first. Edison tried again with a different angle, claiming a different patent gave him priority. Woods won again. After losing twice, Edison reportedly tried to hire Woods, probably thinking, if you can't beat him, buy him, but Woods turned him down. He wasn't interested in working for the man who just tried to steal his invention, the man who dragged him through expensive court battles just because he couldn't stand seeing a black inventor get credit for revolutionary technology. And instead of taking that moment to coast on his success, Woods kept building. He was just getting started. He invented an improved overhead trolley system that let streetcars pull power smoothly from overhead wires, the same basic design cities still use today in San Francisco, Seattle, and transit systems around the world. He came up with improvements for air brakes that made trains stop more safely and reliably. He developed better circuit breakers that prevented electrical fires and equipment damage. He even created a system to dim theater lights gradually without causing fires or electrical surges, which was a real problem at the time because theaters kept burning down when technicians tried to adjust lighting too quickly. And then came his contribution to the technology that still moves millions of people every single day, the power pickup device, patented in 1901, which became the basis for the third rail system. The third rail is that electrified rail that runs alongside or between train tracks in subway systems. It carries electricity via electromagnetic switches and powers trains without exposed overhead wires or dangerous cables that could fall and kill people. Woods' design used wire brushes to make safe contact with the electrified rail, and once the train passed over, the connection broke automatically, reducing the risk of electrocution while maintaining consistent power delivery. In February 1892, Woods successfully tested his electric railway system at Coney Island on the Figure-8 roller coaster. It worked perfectly, smoothly powering the cars without any safety issues. And that same technology, refined and scaled up, powered the New York City subway system when it opened in 1904. Subway trains from New York to London to Tokyo, from Paris to Beijing to Sao Paulo, they all run on technology that traces back to Granville Woods. Not Edison, not Westinghouse, not any of the names you learned in school. Woods. Over his lifetime, Woods earned nearly 60 patents, covering everything from electrical systems to mechanical improvements to telecommunications. His inventions were purchased by General Electric, Westinghouse, Edison Company, and American Bell Telephone, the biggest technology companies in America. These corporations made billions of dollars from his work. But here's the tragedy. Woods died on January 30th, 1910 in New York City from complications of smallpox. He was 53 years old, and he died poor. He didn't die famous. He didn't die wealthy. He didn't have statues or holidays or chapters in textbooks. He was buried in an unmarked grave at St. Michael's Cemetery in Queens. His patents had been bought by big companies who made fortunes, but Woods himself died broke. His name faded into the background while those same companies credited white inventors for his breakthroughs. So how does someone so brilliant, so impactful, get erased? Here's the problem. The part people rarely talk about. Woods lived in a time when being black meant your achievements came with an asterisk. Investors didn't want to fund him because they didn't believe black people could be serious inventors. Newspapers didn't want to highlight him unless they called him the Black Edison, which itself was a backhanded compliment that positioned him as derivative of a white inventor rather than a genius in his own right. Companies wanted his inventions but not his name attached to them because they knew white customers might reject products invented by a black man. Woods spent most of his adult life fighting patent battles. At least 17 of his 45 patents were involved in court proceedings. He had to constantly defend his own inventions against people trying to steal them or claim they'd invented them first. That takes money, time, and energy that should have gone into creating more inventions, into building a business, into securing his financial future. He struggled financially his entire life despite creating technology that made other people rich. He struggled professionally because racism blocked him from getting the recognition and resources he deserved. And he struggled personally, dying in relative obscurity while the world used his inventions every single day without knowing his name. History just quietly pushed him aside, and for over a century, most people had no idea that a black inventor had revolutionized train communication, created the third rail, and helped build the infrastructure of modern cities. And if you ask most people today who invented the light bulb, they say Edison. Who invented the telephone? They say Bell. Who modernized train communication and created the third rail system? Silence. But this is where the story flips, because for the first time ever in the age of the internet, people are finally digging up his work, finally asking the question, who actually invented this? Historians are putting his name back into the conversation, fighting to correct the record. In 2004, the New York City Transit Authority issued 4 million Metro cards commemorating Woods' contributions to the subway system. In 2006, he was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame, only the second black inventor to receive that honor after George Washington Carver. In 2008, the corner of Stillwell and Mermaid Avenues in Brooklyn, right across from the Coney Island subway terminal, was renamed Granville T. Woods Way. Schools are teaching about him. Museums are building exhibits about him. His story is finally being told. Granville Woods is finally getting the credit he deserved over 110 years ago. And here's the part that hits the hardest. This wasn't just a man who invented cool gadgets. This was a man who invented a way out, who took a world that had almost nothing to offer him, no real education, no open doors, no fair shot, and he bent it to his will using pure curiosity, discipline, and intelligence. He imagined systems no one else could see. He built technology before the world even knew it needed it. He carved his name into every subway track, every streetcar line, every electric train running anywhere on the planet. And even if history tried to erase him, the world runs on his ideas every single day. So here's the real key moment in this story. Granville T. Woods didn't just change trains. He changed the concept of possibility. He proved that genius doesn't care where you were born. It doesn't care what race you are. It doesn't care what barriers people put in your way or how many times Thomas Edison tries to steal your work. Genius shows up anyway, and it leaves a mark that can't be erased no matter how hard people try. And his story isn't just important, it's inspiring. Because every kid who thinks they're too poor, too overlooked, too underestimated, too not enough, needs to hear about him. Every person who's been told they don't belong in STEM fields, that innovation isn't for people like them, needs to know that Granville Woods existed. Granville Woods built a future that didn't believe in him, and that's exactly why we need to believe in him now.